Right, live, man. And today is exciting for me. I'm not sure about you, Ed, but although today is about fun and games, woo, this is one of the most important things to coding and development, the concept of emulation. So, um, guys, I believe this is episode 8 already. So we've been kind of going through here. So I am Barry Johnson, and this is my good friend and cohort, Savage Scientist, the governor of Swampland. All right.
Yeah.
So, Ed, I appreciate you, kind of taking the lead here. You've got some emulators on your system. So we're going to talk about the RetroPie I've developed. I just dropped a video that showed you how to install the RetroPie operating system over to your Raspberry Pi, as well as loading games. And Ed will show some of those games as well. So just want to say hello, Eileen. Thank you for stopping in. We've got Redbird. We have Lewis. Cecil is in the background. He's watching us
And I'm
on the big
about to put the
screen.
chat on my
And we have
screen
Kat
so
in
I
the
can
background.
interact.
So yeah, really appreciate you guys stopping through. So yes, so I wanted to kind of talk about this. A lot of us went out and purchased Raspberry Pis, so to use them as laptop replacements, to use them as maybe desktop replacements, and we kind of went in and talked about that. But now it's time for the fun stuff that you can do. So if you remember, what Ed and I had talked about, the Nintendo Classic that was released, the Sega Classic. The RetroPie will allow you to play multiple games, not just be confined to a one given system, but multiple systems, just by installing the RetroPie and loading games onto it. So I was gonna have my RetroPie. It's if people can see, it's back there and it's got a game running. I was gonna have it join the broadcast, but I was getting a lot of feedback with StreamYard. For some reason, it would not let me disable the microphone. So as I was setting it up, Ed had already set up some of the emulators already, so he'll have them on in the background. So I wanted real quick before we kind of start showing what we've done is just talk about why emulation is important. So whenever we have, let's say, old computer-based systems or old pieces of hardware that are really computer-based in nature, what happens is over time we rely on those systems, and when we can't make parts for those systems as technology changes, we still have a need for that system. So if you think about it, all these old arcade games that we might have grew up playing in the 80s and 90s, a lot of those boards are no longer here unless you have an old system and it happens to work. So one of the ways that we can play these old games is by taking what's called the ROM. That's the code file, basically, of the uh, arcade game, and actually extracting it, but then creating what's called an emulator. And the emulator is just an engine that will emulate the hardware that ran that software. Um, so that's how RetroPie is able to play all these old video games. When you see a Nintendo Classic, that's what Nintendo is doing as well, except they're limiting you to 30 games, but they basically have an emulator there. So please check out the video that we've done, and also make sure you check out Ed's. He's done like several live streams. It was like 3 hours or more long. Let me just check this real quick. Okay, echo went away. So yeah, so that is most likely a StreamYard problem. The one that I've done before was not. It was literally the problem I was causing, and I didn't start the broadcast with that. That was a StreamYard thing that I probably got to feed back to StreamYard. So Spectac, I was just talking about how I have dropped a new video, and it's on the RetroPie. So what we're talking about today. So the video basically shows you how to download the RetroPie system, install it onto the onto the Raspberry Pi, and then how you load games. And I will point out this. I talked about it a little bit in the video, but I'll explain it here in detail. I just don't want to make the video too long. Please use, when you're trying to load up the games at first, use the method I talked about in the video, just using a USB jump drive. Even if it's a big, hold on, I'll just grab this. Even if it's a big drive like this, like terabytes, use something like a portable hard drive or a USB drive. And the process will be, you have the RetroPie, and once it's all set up, you take that jump drive or portable drive, put it inside the RetroPie, give it about 5 minutes. And if you have written a directory that says RetroPie on that drive, it will come back and put all of these folders on there. And one of the folders is the ROM folders. So the games go into the ROM folder. Then you take it back to the RetroPie, and it puts it on the SD card. You can use VNC to the RetroPie, and some of the packages that I've experienced, and the reason why I didn't put in the video, some of them didn't work. So I was like, if I'm going to make a video, I want to make sure you guys follow it and you can actually use it. Because literally half of them worked, half of them didn't. So you'd be sitting there going, I can't use VNC. Then there's a way where if you connect to Wi-Fi, that wasn't working on every one that I tried. So I was like, once I got past the Wi-Fi, I said, oh, that's cool. Now all you have to do is go to a browser and then drag and drop. Well, some Windows 10 installations would block it. So I'm like, then that would cause another issue. So I was like, the one method that I tried and worked every single time was the USB method. So I'm like, just do that. And if you put, after you get everything installed and you put that monitor away and it's hooked to your television, and you're like, I don't want to have to do that, then just hit me up through DM. We can kind of try to work together on getting the other methods to work, because I know they're easier, but I was just like, if you have a problem, it's going to take a while to troubleshoot. So everybody in the chat, because I know I'm kind of just talking real quick, I just want to make sure this was, some of you that are here right now were interested in setting up the retro gaming system, correct? And I know there's some other projects, like the next project I'm going to work on is a high quality streamer, around the house streamer with the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
And let me just put everybody here. What's up, Danny? How are you doing?
We have 7 people in the chat.
Oh, good. That's good.
Yep. And I think we have, let me go through, Tech Valor, Redbird.
Hey, you know what? I have to say, I shout out to Savage, Tech Valor, Spectacular Gadgets, Eileen. I'm trying to think of all the veterans, Chris, all the veteran YouTubers here. Because I will tell you, during that video, like, I'm like, right now, my videos, I'm trying to take the whole nother level, right? And during that video, I was met with, wait a second here. I'm going to have to film this via phone on the television that has all this reflection, And I know you guys have probably been faced with certain scenarios where you couldn't do like a screen capture. You had to film like a really highly reflective surface. So I know you guys, oh man, I've been there, done that before, but I was just like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. Oh, I should ask Chris. This is Perspective Gaming. So Chris, I know you are into, obviously, we go to your streams, like the latest games, but do you play some of the retro games? Because that's kind of what we did. That was my latest video, is the RetroPie. And Savage, I just wanted to kind of ask you, when did you start getting into? Because I know you've had this on your channel for a while, as far as like the retro gaming. When did you start getting into this stuff?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Shay in Perspective.
Oh yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
And isn't Mr. Catwoman in there too?
Yeah, he's not in the chat. He's just watching on the television.
All right. Yeah, I know it was somewhere. And I started emulating. Well, I go all the way back to 1987 when I got the 8-bit Nintendo, and I've been playing games all the time. I was poor and broke, so I had, while everybody else was going out, their parents were buying them new games, I had the one Super Mario Brothers game, playing it on damn black and white television.
Okay.
I was so good at that game till my goal was to jump over the pole. Couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that whole thing was just to try and find flaws in the game to try and make it so you could do something somebody else can't.
Yes.
So then it goes all the way back to the point where I eventually started getting games. I had about 3 games in the future, but eventually I ran across emulation as I got older and got into a computer, got my first computer. And I always wanted to make a game. And that's what got me in that's why I didn't become a chemist or a physicist.
Because you really got into the gaming type of. Okay.
Yeah, besides the terrible, you think I talk about math a lot. If you talk to a physicist, they know stuff about math that, they math knowledge is on a whole nother level. But I went into computer science because I thought I could make a game. Realized that it is a lot more work. It's harder. I could say it's a lot more harder, but that's not grammatically correct. A lot more harder. But it is very difficult, and it requires a team. I know how to make a game now, but it's not something that I could actually do by myself with all the other obligations I have, like a job and a family and YouTube. So if you want to talk about making games, my son actually made a game on his channel, and I've been persuading him all day that he need to start talking about that. But you know how kids are when they like, you turn 18, you just got to get out of my house. So it's that type of thing.
Yeah.
Even though he don't live with me.
Exactly.
So it just became a thing where I started playing games on my channel, and for one time I've been saying I was gonna play Contra and all that stuff, but I have Castlevania on my channel from, I think I played that game in 2018 or 2019. And I use this setup. This is basically my Surface laptop running a very old emulator that came out in probably 2003. I think it's called Virtual NES. And I know many people heard of it, but like Barry said, when you play these games, you have these ROMs. A ROM is basically is an image file of the game so if you hold up a Zelda cartridge, you could also call that a Zelda ROM, because that is the instructions, the graphics, all the stuff that makes up that game is ported into a single file. And I can show y'all what that would look like. Let me go in here and just show you how I get to my ROMs. So I open up my folder. So if I click open, and all these files that has .nes in here, let me see if I can zoom in so you can see it.
It might be a little bright. Okay, cool.
Right,
that
so
works.
can y'all see that now?
Perfect. Yep, that's perfect.
So these are the games, and whenever I'm ready to play them, this is it. You have, and most of the time it's illegal to have the games and the ROMs. To have the games and the emulators in the same, all on the same website. So this is, a lot of this stuff is done by very, very shady people. So the law states that if you decide to want to emulate a game or play a game, then we assume that you have the cartridge.
Correct.
And my story is I had one game forever. So when I play games, I have the cartridge.
Yep.
Even though I might not have it physically, but that's the kind of gotcha rule behind this. So no, the FBI is not gonna come knocking at your house saying if you playing Amagon or 1943, and they're not gonna come looking for you unless you somehow getting rich off of it. And I'm not
you're
talking
making
about
money
like
off of it.
PewDiePie
That's
rich.
the
I'm
thing that
talking
they're
about
trying
like
to.
you actually selling the games or something like that, and just blowing it up,
Yep.
like making like
That's who
selling
Nintendo
game
typically goes
systems.
after,
Yeah,
the people that are trying to sell their information. They're not going after people that have
yeah.
the ROMs. So
So yeah, so they really don't want them online, but you know, if you look hard enough, you can find entire libraries of ROMs. Like I downloaded a thing of 650 Nintendo games. I have Sega Genesis games. I have some PlayStation 2 games and Nintendo 64, all that stuff. My Nintendo 64 emulator is running on my other computer.
yep.
But what I'm doing is just showing y'all how easy this stuff is. If let me go ahead and minimize this. And to zoom in, you just use the Windows key and the plus arrows, and that's the fastest way to zoom in on stuff.
And just all the stuff that he's showing you is stuff that happened. Like to give you an example, for me, it was a little bit different. I had, games growing up. But what it was I had Atari 2600, ColecoVision, Nintendo, Genesis. So everything was back to back to back to back for me. And when you're going through it at the time, you just don't really think that you're going to have broken controllers over the years and all that stuff. You kind of take it for granted. So around 98 is when emulators really started to make this big push, and it was computer based, like what Savage is showing. So I started playing them there because I was like, man, I gotta rebuy controllers just to play my games, right? So I could play it with the mouse and keyboard. I could play it with different methods. I could borrow like a USB, like a $10 gamepad and play. And then when the Raspberry Pi came out, it was the first time that you could have a cheap box that you could go put in your entertainment system without having to have a big computer by your entertainment system. So Savage has got this game, and I'm gonna let him talk. Behind me over my shoulder, I've got one of my favorite games, Blaster Master, playing off my Raspberry Pi on my TV. But go ahead, Savage. I'm gonna turn it back to you.
So this is just true that they have a lot of Nintendo games. I don't know if anybody played Mega Man 2. This is probably one of the best. I tell you, this is one of the best games out here. Mega Man 2 that came out, I think, in 1989. This thing is real good. So you can just hit the L button and now I could load states on the emulator.
Yes.
But I haven't played the game in so long, so I don't even think I have any saved states. But yeah, you could. So here it is. So I just picked up where I played. And this thing is real time.
Yeah.
Turn this down a little.
Yeah, Chris was just saying in the chat, he has most of his on his Note 10 Plus because they could take most of the games. And that's what's cool about the Raspberry Pis is they're cheap and they can take most of the games as well.
And as far as emulation concerned, I don't just emulate video games. I have if you running what is it called, VMware, then you still emulating. You're just emulating an entire system.
Correct. And that was one of the points I was trying to make before is there are old systems that might have programs that were special for, to give you an example, a manufacturing house might have used an old Apple IIe computer in their manufacturing line, and they can't get a hold of an Apple IIe anymore. So they would use an emulator. So an emulator that would run the software on like a modern PC that would emulate the Apple IIe, and it could run their old software, like I said. So that's what an emulator is. And this is just emulating the actual Nintendo Entertainment System. It can emulate old arcade games inside of your, like your local arcade, or even some of the newer ones, depending on the horsepower of your PC or Raspberry Pi. So you have a lot of capability with these things.
Yeah, and a lot of times, like when you play these games, you might have some screen lag. But as you can see, I'm running this on my OLED TV. Not to brag on my OLED, but if you want to buy it, it's for sale too. But
hey,
I had this running on a OLED TV, and it's copied from my laptop screen. And this isn't the most powerful laptop. I mean, this is the Surface. This is the Surface Book. And I think it only has probably 2 gigs of video memory, and I'm able to play this game in real time.
You just reminded me.
So,
my light gun is somewhere around
joystick
here.
input.
So real quick, if you're gonna play any of the games like Duck Hunt, the games that require a light gun, you have to have a CRT. They don't work on the modern.
Now it might, you know what? It might work on OLED though. I don't know. Did Duck Hunt work on plasma? Because I know it don't work on LED.
Okay.
I don't know
on OLED?
But it might work, but I'm seriously doubting it though. But
okay.
I know you can't use it on LCD. And probably not.
You know what? I can't remember when I got because I had a broken light gun and I got a new one. Only 2 gig of memory. I'm not sure what she's talking about.
2 gigs of video memory. So
2 gigs of video memory. Yeah. She's the memory queen. So.
Graphics cards that you buy today have 8 gigs.
Yeah.
And like if you go out and buy a gaming computer, you most likely you're gonna have 16 or 32 gigs of graphical memory. I remember back you had I have a graphics card in here.
Yeah, some of the old cars didn't have that much horsepower. So yeah, I know where Tech Valor is coming from. So bottom line is the older developers had to really be efficient with some of their instructions.
So this is an old graphics card out of my neighbor's upstairs computer. They threw it away. So what I did was I went in there and I extracted the graphics card out of it, and it had a solid state drive. So I kept it.
Yes.
I didn't like my neighbor, so I really was gonna just go and see if I could get some.
Yeah.
I might not even say that because it's considered evidence, but yeah.
Well, you just made me. This discussion has made me think. I probably should do a video, not just on the music streamer, probably emulating an old PC, not just games. Just so people can get the concept of emulators as well. I mean, more.
Emulating old PC. I'm gonna show y'all that too if we have time. But cool. So really, I know they've been playing this certain sound a lot. And I just want y'all to see if y'all recognize it.
Hey, I know this.
This was my game right here.
Yeah.
I knew, and this is actually where Swampland came from.
Really? I didn't know that that's where this came from.
Well, I created Swampland because in the games, if you watch the cartoon, the levels had names like Grassland and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, World 9 would be Swampland.
Wow. I did not know that's where this came from.
And sometimes the emulator might lock up like it just did. You just restart it and reload the ROM.
Yeah. And what normally happens? Oh, wow. Check this out. Spectac and Chris are like, that's my game.
And this is the real Mario 3. It doesn't have those fake ugly noises that came with the Super Nintendo version.
Now, one thing I will say, you can probably go into the RetroPie by default. They go for stability versus, so different emulators might have better graphical performance, but their stability, like we just saw the crash. But RetroPie goes for the stability first. So I haven't had a crash yet on any game.
So one thing I did do is like I played this game before, so I just picked up where I left off from the last time I played it on World.
Okay, cool.
World 3.
And that's one thing that you talked about it, but that's one thing about emulation that you couldn't do when we were kids. What did we do if we wanted to stay where we were? We would just keep the game on all night. Like if we were about to go to sleep or something like that, it's like we just had to leave it because we didn't want to have to go through all those levels or whatever. Mm-hmm. Emulation, you can save a state, where you're at, So,
and you can pause the entire emulator.
You can pause
turn the noise off. That's another thing I like.
That's the one.
So one more thing is this sound effect. I want y'all to hear this sound effect. So let me just restart it. You hit you can come up here to options and then do a software reset. And that's the same thing as resetting the game. And sometimes I don't think that worked. So you could just reset it like that too.
Yep.
And I just want you to hear this sound whenever
All right,
you die.
Question for Spectac and Chris, did you guys complete this game?
Did I complete this game?
You can answer too.
Well, I'll let them answer it first.
Okay. Okay, both of them did. Okay, here we go. The reason why you don't hear the sound is I think he's going to play one sound effect, but he's not going to play when he's actually playing, just because you can do this all day. You can have a 24/7 channel on emulation, but the music is what is the issue.
So I just want y'all to hear this sound effect. If LaShawn, you know that. I know he know that sound.
The echo is StreamYard, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, so that sound is and I know why if you pull the controller out while the emulator is running, you're gonna run into some trouble. And as you can see, Windows is searching for the controller. So it's just stuff it's just little small things you have to be mindful of because computers are kind of finicky. So let's see if I could. Yeah, see how so I removed the controller and not a game, not a system needs to be restarted. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of games on this thing. And I mean, we all know this game.
I don't know if you saw Tech King Mike Pops, aka Pops, came into the building.
But yeah, these games are exciting.
Yeah. It's unbelievable what you can do. It's good, Mr. Pops.
So when I last played Contra, this is where I left off. And as you can see, if you mess with the controller, it's gonna mess the game up. So you just have to restart the game.
Okay.
I mean, you think about it. When you had a Nintendo, you had to blow in the games anyway and restart them a lot.
Yeah, you're showing all the potential pitfalls.
Yo, yeah. I mean, because this thing, a lot of times you're gonna be in the settings mode and you're gonna be in the actual game if you're trying to run it on. Like this controller has a short in the cable, so that's why I'm always, I need me a wireless controller. So if you hook a wireless controller up, you won't run into this stuff. Oh yeah. So Spectac was talking about Sonic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have a few. I have a Sega Genesis emulator too. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, before we get into that one, this is one. I don't know if I have time because sometimes this thing really, it's a little more difficult to use. But this emulator called MAME, MAME. Multiple arcade.
That's what I started off for me. Multiple arcade machine emulator. That's what changed my life.
I'm about to see, and the thing is, this thing show you all the games and their status. So I'm about to see if I can find.
So Jessica wants to know where's the light.
The light?
Yeah.
I had the light on
Where's the
up.
light? L
Oh, yeah.
Y T E.
Is that enough light for you?
I am the light.
Yeah. I got it dark. I have an excuse.
I
to
think
have,
he just has it dark right now, Jessica, just so you can see what he's highlighting, because before it was blown out.
Yeah, so that's a good excuse to be in the dark. They know I'm from Darkland, actually. And if you haven't played Mario 3, Darkland is actually World 8, where King Koopa is. Let's see if I can find this ROM right quick.
Yeah, I used to have I had Street Fighter, versus Capcom, and man, Marvel versus Capcom. Oh yeah, Shinobi, that was a good one.
I know y'all remember
So what he's doing right now, he's playing the actual arcade game. So what you would see like back in '87 when you go into an arcade game, Shinobi. Mm-hmm. My favorite version of this was Shadow Dancer, the sequel.
Yeah, so that was Shinobi 2, wasn't it?
It wasn't called Shinobi 2. It was the same type of game, but it had a dog. It had better graphics. Not that this was any slouch.
I'm turning down this TV instead of this one. I have two TVs in here, so I got the wrong remote.
Yeah.
So when I was young, I used to go around in school. I used to get detentions and suspension because I used to be the human emulator. I used to go there and used to do stuff like that, like I'm actually playing the games, and used to go and elbow people and do all kind of stuff. I stayed in trouble, and it's because of these games. I used to play Metroid and Metroid, just think that think I could go roll around and stuff, and these games were influential for its time. And we look at the stuff that they're making today. I mean, they have some real good games, and now like Call of Duty, But these games kind of some of the good ones, they actually simulate real world systems like Flight Simulator, and like they said that the terrorists who knocked down the World Trade Center, they were using flight. They were playing Microsoft Flight Simulator to kind of get an idea on how a plane worked or how to land a plane. So that's some of the things that's real, and how these games could have negative impacts. And we all know about the stuff that happened with the people who went around and started talking about all the blood in the games. This was at a time where games wasn't as violent as the Street Fighter and the Mortal Kombats that we have back in 95 and 94, 95 and 96. So this was the good stuff. It's just like wrestling back then, or wrestling, how we call it in the South. The good days were back in the 80s and the early 90s.
Ooh, Chris had to go there. Mortal Kombat. So I just messaged Scoop. I saw his message. This is kind of his wheelhouse. He actually used to build and sell Raspberry Pis with RetroPie on them. So like I would have sent him a link. I knew he was at work. But I
wanted to have a challenge with somebody. I wish somebody had these same games running on their system, and whoever could and get to the end of the game first. I want to challenge somebody and see if they could beat me.
Now, not a game you've already done that with, dude. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about don't challenge Savage with, oh yeah, I beat this game. Yeah, let's do this game.
Yeah, so we could agree. We could agree on the game together.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. And some of you have bought your Raspberry Pis. And just so everybody understands, the way the Raspberry Pi works is the following. You don't have to, like, when you install RetroPie on it, you power it down, take out that SD card, and let's say, for instance, you had a desktop operating system, just put that SD card in and start it back up. You could have 1 million of these SD cards. So you could have one Raspberry Pi that does it all if you wanted to.
So right here, I'm showing y'all. I know a lot of people have heard of this. VMware. This is mostly what you use to emulate systems.
Correct.
And you can run this on like I think this is a version of Windows a version of Linux built to look like Windows.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Windows FX.
Mm-hmm.
And I have another, like on this computer, I think I have a version of Windows 3.1. It might be here. It's on this computer. So I would have to remote into this computer to show that to y'all. But I'm thinking that if I remote into my computer, then it's gonna conflict with the stream, and it's gonna just cause more unnecessary problems.
But basically, he's able to run that OS.
So this is Linux, but it looks like Windows.
It looks like Windows, and he's also able to run it on his Windows PC. So he's able to provide an environment. I have to do that with work all the time. I've got one PC for work, but then I have a customer that needs a specific version of Linux to test out a piece of software. So I'll run basically an emulation layer so I can actually install that.
Yeah, so emulation is real powerful. I mean, if you ever get into development, like Barry said, if you want to like create a system like if you're creating an Android app, you're gonna have to emulate that Android environment, and there are emulators for Android. Most of them, like if you're doing some Swift programming for the iPhone, most likely you're gonna have a Mac running that, and you're gonna have an emulator for your iPhone. Yeah, and this is it. I mean, this thing looks just like Windows, but you could once you start clicking around in here, you're gonna see that.
Hold on, let me see. Hey, so Scoop, did you want me to send you a link? He's home now. Let me. I'll send him a link. So we'll talk some more about this, and I also want to talk about,
that's just picking up from my last
give
week.
Me just 1 second, everybody. I'm gonna send Scoop a link because I know he's real passionate about this.
And Ed just said that he has a Microsoft Flight Simulator, older version of it. Yep. What year version do you have?
Yeah, I'm curious because there's a lot of people that are stuck. Let me send this to Scoop. Yeah, there are some people that they're like, no, I have to make sure this is up and running.
I bought this beer. It's very, very nasty. It's more of that hop type stuff from the corner store, and it's nasty, but I'm still drinking because I paid for it.
That was sort of like Scoop. Scoop tried out some ginger Sprite last night, and first sip, he goes, "This is trash."
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and
oh, here he is. He's already here. All right, cool.
Hang on here.
Hey, what's up, buddy? Yeah, I know this is your wheelhouse, man. I was like,
you guys are all up in my wheelhouse.
So Scoop went to.
The funny part is, I'm literally taking my apartment right now to swap out an SD card. So,
all right, cool. So yeah, so bottom line is, we're all emulator guys. We've done this for a long time, but the thing is, RetroPie I've done a few times, but not like Scoop. Scoop actually, used to sell that. You would configure it for people.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would do full builds. I do full builds for people.
Okay.
I'd bring in controllers. If they want to go Bluetooth, I'd charge them a little extra. But I'd do 8-bit DOE controllers or whatever. If they wouldn't want to cheap it out, I can a knockout control or something like that for them.
So so what he just mentioned is, just so you're familiar. So if you're looking for a USB based controller, that's not it's more of in the vein of the old Super Nintendo, but it's one of the best that you can get. Go ahead. He probably has it. He can show.
Yeah.
So what I normally do is I usually use a PS4 or Xbox USB connected, and they're good. But sometimes you want something that's closer to the retro style that you grew up with. So that's what he's gonna come and show.
Had to grab him.
Yeah, so there it is right here.
This is what I normally get people.
Yes.
Wired USB-A.
Yep.
Traditional, more in the vein of Super Nintendo. But my personal favorite is the Bluetooth 8-bit DOE.
Yes.
So it feels a bit more like a traditional Nintendo controller. But you still got the bumpers like a Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with anything from a Raspberry Pi 2 and up, it's Bluetooth capable.
Capable. Correct.
You have to go into the background menus, but you can still.
Yeah. And guys, if you want to do that, I can put together a video. That's 2 seconds.
Yep. That's why the greatest thing I did for myself was just I bought a cheap USB keyboard. And
Yes.
anytime I do a build, I just hook that keyboard up to make sure I get all my settings right for the person. So it's truly a plug and play for them when I get done.
Okay. Spectacular Gadget has that controller.
Yep. So what I do is I love to plug it. I like to make it plug and play, so they can literally hook up their USB, hook up their HDMI, turn it on. I'll show them how to run the updates the quickest and easiest way, and I'll walk away and I'm done with it. And I've made a little money. So
Yeah. I'm just asking Spectacular Gadget if she plans to do that with her Raspberry Pi.
So my next, I'm actually going to build a 4 here, and probably an 8-bit 64 or 8 gig 64 Pi.
Okay.
That'll be a little bit easier to swap because I've got a pretty hard case on mine, so it takes a little while to swap SD cards. So I'll probably get the plastic case with the fan.
Yeah, that one's so easy to swap SD cards.
Yeah, that's my next move. I love this case just because it's elegant.
Yeah.
It looks nice.
So this is the thing. So if you're not planning on swapping cards, what Scoop has, get what one you think looks the best for your setup and all that.
Yeah.
But I knew I was going to be doing videos, so I was like, I'm going to be swapping quite a bit, and it's easy for me just to grab the SD card and stick it, put in a new one.
Yeah, correct.
So, and also in my case, it's stupid easy to take it apart and put it back together.
Yeah. So no, Pi builds are fun, and they are really, really fun, and I thoroughly enjoy them. It's just fun to test your mind and test. Okay, it's one thing to have instructions per se to put something together and make it work. It's another thing to be given a blank canvas.
Correct.
And create your masterpiece that way. And I do enjoy the blank canvas aspect of them. So.
You made a great point, because it was like when we were talking to Wayne Train the other night, and we were talking about RetroPie and all that stuff. And then as we talked to him, it was like, well, wait a second, you want to play RetroPie, but you want to have the operating system. And we pointed him to getting a different operating system because he wants to do multiple things with it,
Blank canvas.
So, blank canvas. Yep. So he can do whatever he wants
with the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah. So the way it seemed at first, he was like, "Oh, I'm going to get one of these and I want to put RetroPie on," because he wanted games. But RetroPie basically, all this stuff, it does all the back stuff for you. You just transfer games and then you just go to the different game systems. And he's like, well, I actually want to go to the desktop and I might want to play an MP3 file, or I want to, use it like a computer, but also have RetroPie. And I was like, well, just put a different operating system on there. And there's one called Twister OS that pretty much has everything installed by default. But it starts off in the desktop.
Yeah, you can go with a gaming distribution. Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, have you ever heard of my law called the fundamental law of situations? It's basically a coincidence is the perfect opportunity for stuff to go wrong. Okay. So I was looking for my game systems in there, and I have this jug of water because my car was overheating. I had this jug of water that just sat there for months and months and months. And it's a fairly strong top container. I go in there and knock it over, and the water's just spilled all over the floor.
Oh wow!
That's the fun. And I actually have a video on there where I have a tree fell on or something like. I think it's a picture of a tree that fell. Because one day I was driving Uber, and I was going down the street, and then I said, "Let me go down this street." The one street I decided to turn down to get to a customer, they had a tree blocking the road.
Yep.
So if you rush to do anything in life, expect the fundamental law of situation to be right there, and you got to give it a big salute.
Yep.
Because it will be there.
It will be.
So I'm gonna do a little easy number and just show all these video game systems I have here.
Speaking of emulating, I need to load one on here and see what it plays like.
Oh yeah, you know what? So you definitely need to, because Chris was just saying, Perspective Gaming was saying that he has all the, well, not all of them, but most of them on the Note 10. And that was
Oh yeah, yeah. You can run them
I'm
on the
curious
Note
to see how
10.
the Fold, does. I know processing is fine, but I'm just curious how that big display.
The Note 10 got that ARM
Display and
processor.
how
They
it's
can
gonna
handle.
integrate into the fold is what I'm curious about. So
Yeah, that's what I'm.
reminds me,
Yeah,
I'm going to do that right now.
cool. That'll work. That's
You can
awesome.
run them on the Switch, because really, if you have a computer better than probably 2000 and I would say 2001, so that was probably around the time we got around.
Mhm.
I would probably say about 500 or 600 megahertz Pentium 3 processor or Pentium
Mhm.
2. I mean, you probably even could run them on computers that was as old as crappy nested Celeron processor computers. You
Yep.
could run most of these games. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be the best experience, but you could at least play them.
Correct.
You might run into a little choppiness.
Yeah, I think everybody they have pretty recent. I mean, not even pretty recent. They should have no problem.
Yeah, so if you have a computer 2005 or newer with a Pentium 3 or better, then you won't have any trouble running anything from the N64 and on back. But if you want to run something like the GameCube, Nintendo,
then you need more
the
power.
Switch and all that stuff, you're gonna need a modern computer with a good graphics card, probably 16 gigs of RAM or more, and we get you a solid state drive.
Exactly.
Like this.
Hey. I feel you.
Very true, Tech Valor.
Yes, I feel you.
Solid state drive. You won't have any trouble.
Correct.
And this actually will improve getting a solid state drive is going to improve your performance. I probably even more than getting a new processor.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. More than the because it's not working to access the memory. It's
correct.
It's direct. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So because like Scoop said, one of the biggest bottlenecks that you're gonna have is whenever you start paging, whenever your computer start writing physical memory to your hard drive, or it's your solid state drive, and then it has to keep accessing that data. That's what makes your computer really, really slow.
Yeah. Correct.
And that's one of the things that make the M1 chip much faster. I mean, it's like the memory and the processor. I mean, they're closer together. It's more like you. It's kind of like a grid. If you go in a city that's grid bad, that has a grid pattern, you'll notice that data has many ways to get to where you have to go versus like in a country where you have one road linking two cities. And if that one road
goes
just happen to get blocked, you have to go. You're gonna have to wait for them to clear the accident or whatever blocking it, or you're gonna have to go around.
Correct. So not to try to segue, but I know we got about 10 or so minutes left, but I just wanted to kind of recap. I know for me, and I know Scoop, you mentioned something, we just kind of recap for everybody. I've got I want to experiment with going live on StreamYard with the Raspberry Pi with I'll just use a webcam just for testing purposes. So I want to do that with the Raspberry Pi. I want to build a NAS or network attached storage with the Raspberry Pi. I want to do the music streaming. So if you have any ideas, I'm just going to be adding to. I just want to try as much things as possible with what I have.
Yeah, my NAS is a QNAP.
Oh yeah, those are great. Yeah,
six drive QNAP.
Yeah, I just want the reason why I want to do a Raspberry Pi is really cheap. So it would be literally the Raspberry Pi without a case and the drives without a case, connected together. And it's like, this is how much this costs versus a QNAP. This is the type of performance I'm getting. If this performance is compatible with what you need, you could probably potentially save money.
So, you could do a lot of stuff with a Raspberry
Pi.
Oh
my God, it's ridiculous.
I mean, they are wonderful computers.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I really want one. I'm gonna get one because I would like to have a computer that's here just so I could stream on. So in small.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah,
if you could get streaming to work on the Raspberry Pi, then that's what I'm
yeah.
gonna
So
use.
what I'm
mine
gonna
for.
do, there's a Linux version called MX Linux, and that's what Miss Full Roller Sierra uses. So I'm gonna install that one. It's really lightweight. So I'm gonna try on that one, and also the default one, Raspbian. And kind of get my thoughts.
I've got an SD card with Raspbian. I've got 2 with RetroPie, 2 different versions. I was just kind of experimenting with.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm thinking about trying MX as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's there's just so many things, and there's other things I want to do around the house with them too. You know, like automation and stuff like that with the Raspberry Pi as well. So I've got a lot of stuff planned for it. Yeah, but outside of that, that's probably what, you know, so if someone wants to see something else, they need to probably contact me, because those are kind of my thoughts right now. Did you think of any what type of case you're gonna replace it with, Scoop?
No, I think I'm just gonna go with the one that comes with the CanaKit for now.
Oh, yeah, with the
with
plus,
the fan
okay.
built in.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So I mean, it's an easy install. I mean,
It's
on
so
pins 5 and
easy.
6.
It's so easy.
It's pins 5 and 6 on the IO board, so it's not like it's
Correct. Exactly.
It's difficult.
And one thing that I did, just because the fan was a little loud, I used 1 and 6. So 1 is 3.3 volts.
Okay, so you just dropped the voltage.
Yeah,
down.
I just dropped the voltage, and because what will happen, I was like, I noticed that there's just a little whine, and I was like, once I dropped it to 3.3 volts, I can't.
As hard as I push him though, when I'm doing a lot of the updates and everything, I gotta run it. I gotta run it.
Yeah,
at full power.
Yeah,
to keep it cold.
Yeah. Understand.
Because those little pies, even though they're efficient, you start loading the chipset.
Oh,
they get warm.
Yeah.
It's like any chipset. You start loading it. I don't care what kind of heat sink you got on there, what kind of paste you got. It's
correct. It's gonna get hot. Yeah, that's right.
And that's one of the cool.
You know, the whole nostalgia thing is really.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, people. I mean, that's the stuff now, because
and what I like about it is nostalgia, and I think really Scoop hit it on the head. How many people he was building these for? Because when I was doing this before, I was moving mouses and all that stuff. Once you have it installed on the RetroPie, you just go click, I'm move over to Genesis, click, I'm gonna move over to Nintendo, click, I'm gonna go to Super Nintendo, and then just select the game, and you're playing.
I built one for a guy. He had it was a Windows Man Cave, so he had a whole a whole room of like nostalgic games, and he had a couple cabinets, but he wanted something he could play on his big screen. So he has an 80 something inch big screen.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I want to play these retro games. I always look bad. I'm like, I got an idea for you. So I built him the first one. I showed up with it. He was like, where is it? I'm like, hey, right here. He's like, what? I'm like, where do you want it? He's like, I just wanted it out of sight. I got you. So I hook it all up, get them all plugged in, toss in the 8-bit controller. He's like, okay, turn it on. All right, cool. So I fired up over the HDMI, and his eyes got about this big. As he's scrolling through the list of games, and you just see the joy of his face. It's like, I used to play that in arcade. I used to play that in arcade.
Yeah.
Fire it up, and he's taken back to like 1991, sitting in his buddy's room, and they're just playing, and they're laughing like the kids again.
Yeah,
that was so much fun.
Oh yeah, and the thing that we're glancing, because we just want you to get what we're talking about. Like, oh, I'm scrolling through the games, all that stuff. You can actually add on there the artwork. You can actually put little clips of videos. So like as you're scrolling through, you can see the clip. Like maybe there's some obscure game that you don't remember or whatever, and you can see the video of it or whatever that you provided. So yeah, it's a great thing.
I mean, even if you get down to the level of putting it on your phone, you can actually rip audio from like the games. So like I have my ringtone when you call me is the level 1 of Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu, because I loved that 8-bit song.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's literally if you call me, you hear Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, man, I like. I mean, video game music. That
Oh
it
man,
just seemed like
it's a big part
the
of our life.
Nintendo and the Atari, especially that familiar Pac-Man sound whenever you started off, that they used the little flip song.
Mhm.
That noise, like that just bring back memories of just
Oh
being
man,
a badass kid back in the 80s and
yep,
90s.
yep.
I'm not saying nothing wrong with y'all youngsters today, but y'all don't know nothing about that. Y'all didn't grow up with the stuff that you know that we talk just like almost like how we can't really relate to these new TV shows that these kids loving today. All this I
Boom,
don't even
there
know
it
what
is.
they watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to like. I know, so my kids are grown, but a lot of a lot of a lot of their programs were really good. But you're right, the modern ones, like in the last 5 or so years. Ugh. Uh-oh, that's right. LaShawn did have that. He had a TurboGrafx 16 and a Neo Geo.
Neo.
Man.
I didn't get the Neo
that
Geo
Neo
because I would
Geo
have to
was-
pay for it. I would have to pay
That
for it,
Neo
but
Geo
I had the Genesis, so I didn't get the TurboGrafx 16. I went with Genesis.
The
Oh
Mega
yeah,
Drive.
yeah. Catwoman just gave me a demerit for cussing.
Yeah.
So she gotta salute me back. I'm gonna hold this salute until she say at ease. So let's see how long it's gonna take.
That is too funny. But
I'm waiting on
Neo
my
Geo,
at ease.
Yeah,
Or as
LaShawn
you
had-
were. Man,
remember-
this is pretty fun.
when I was in Tallahassee. Wait a second, was it? I think it was William Floyd. Wait a second, hold on. Let me look this up. I could have sworn he was the only one. Well, he's the only one I knew that had a Neo Geo. Let me see.
TG16, man, that was fun stuff.
The Neo Geo was what?
Yeah.
700. No, that was the Panasonic 3DO that was $799.
The
I
3DO
think
was
the Neo Geo was probably about 700. Those were the video game systems that probably had 7 or 8 games for them. And if you had them, it's just like, I mean, well, I didn't know anyone who had one, but if you had Neo Geo in your house, then you were a legend back in. Back in
So
the
yeah,
days.
William Floyd had
done 2
he had
words,
one.
man. Metal Slug. That's all I got.
Metal. Oh my god. Woo! You just remind me, man.
Metal Slug was the
Dude,
truth,
I play.
man.
I don't know what it is about Metal Slug. I
Fatal
will
Fury
play them
too.
and complete them, play them and complete them. So you just remind me, I gotta download that and play that on the RetroPie.
I think I have a Neo Geo emulator on here already.
Oh man,
But I just, you know what?
that's
I never
the one cool thing about the
loaded any
RetroPie is the emulators are already there.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
You've got
Oh, yeah.
DOS simulators and
yeah. So that's what's so cool about RetroPie. It's already there. Like a lot of stuff that Savage is, that's the normal way. You find the emulator, you find which one is best, which one is optimized for however your use case is. But RetroPie kind of picks the 80% pleasing emulator, to everybody. So everybody's
Yeah,
kind of
the
it's already
Retro
there.
Pie just works.
Yes, it just works. It's
just
like it
works.
already has it on there. So he just reminded me, I gotta install Metal Slug.
Yeah.
That was a cool game.
I have Retro Pie
Man.
PC version on my computer and over here. I just haven't really gotten around to integrating.
And I love all of their fighting games, pretty much, like Samurai Showdowns.
Man, that was,
all the man. Yeah, this is a man. I can
with
talk about
Earthquake
this all
on it,
day.
right? This big
Earthquake.
sumo wrestler.
Yes, Earthquake. I
And
used
he
to always
reminded me of
play-
the WWF.
Who was the guy?
Earthquake.
Why can't I think of his name? But he was the one that whenever he'd win, he would turn around and go like this. He had the long hair. That was when he would slap you. That was the dude I would like. You would get close and you expect him like to truck you, and he's like, boom, and you're like, man, this dude just slapped me, man. And he like sit there and then, like take his whole sword to you, and you're like, how did he do this? But that was my guy.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I remember that Samurai Showdown. Oh my goodness.
And Pit Fighter. Pit
Yeah,
Fighter's like real life there. I mean, you were in a warehouse. When you fight, you're in a warehouse, and then at the end of the game, it's just like they put you on a forklift and they'll put all the money in the front,
Mm-hmm.
raise the forklift up over the money.
Yep.
You know, it's just like
Absolutely.
must have really been in real situations like this to be able to.
Oh
to
yeah, a lot of these they are
Oh,
very
Lord.
creative.
that's loud.
Those people, they are very creative. So,
Mhm.
but man, I'm not. We can talk about this all day. I usually keep this to an hour, and I'll keep it to an hour unless you guys have some other stuff to say. Someone in the
Yeah.
chat is gonna, they need questions answered, but hit us all up in our DMs. You know how to find us. I'll update the description.
That's me on
If
everything,
you
by
have
the way.
any questions about RetroPie,
Name
the
right there.
games or anything like that, please contact us. That's what we're here for. All right, man. So hey, Scoop, I appreciate it. This is awesome, man. I didn't think you'd been. This is awesome, man.
When you hit my wheelhouse,
Yeah. So, hey, yeah. All right, cool, man. I appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, this was Coding versus Programming, and we are out.